What if logic is not what truly drives us, but emotion? Every choice you make, every reaction you feel, is shaped by hidden human laws. These laws guide love, fear, jealousy, and ambition. In this lesson, you will explore the law of human nature and discover how understanding others begins with mastering yourself. People like to think they make decisions through logic, but the truth is that emotion controls almost everything we do. Fear, pride, jealousy, and insecurity shape our words, our choices, and even our dreams. The mind creates a story to justify feelings, calling it reason, but deep down, it is emotion that decides. The law of irrationality teaches that when we feel anger, fear, or shame, we often mistake these emotions for truth. You might believe you are seeing reality clearly, but you are really reacting to an inner wound or old fear. The first step toward wisdom is to pause. When emotion rises, ask yourself, am I reacting to what is really happening, or to my fear of losing control? This small pause turns emotion into awareness. Awareness creates space, and space gives you the power to choose your response instead of being controlled by it. The law of narcissism reminds us that every person sees life as if they are the main character in a movie about themselves. People focus on how things affect them, not on what others feel. This is natural, but it limits understanding. The cure is empathy. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, focus on understanding what lies beneath another person's words. Ask questions that show care. Feel what they feel for a moment. When you do this, your relationships deepen, and people sense that they are truly seen. The law of role-playing reveals that everyone wears a mask. People pretend to be confident, kind, or angry depending on what they think the world expects. The confident person may be deeply afraid. The gentle person may be hiding a strong will. To understand others, stop judging their words and watch their patterns. Notice how they treat people who cannot help them. Notice if their actions match their promises. This is how you see the truth behind the performance. The law of compulsive behavior explains why many people repeat the same painful stories in their lives. They return to unhealthy relationships, destroy progress, or quit just before success. These patterns are not accidents, they are the mind's way of repeating old emotions until they are understood. When you recognize your own pattern and trace it back to its source, you free yourself from it. Human beings are emotional creatures trying to appear logical. True strength begins when you stop pretending to be rational and start mastering the feelings that guide you. Human beings are creatures of desire. They rarely chase what they truly need. Instead, they chase what they cannot have. The harder something is to reach, the more value the mind gives it. This is the illusion described by the law of covetousness. You might believe that you love a person, a job, or an object, but often what you love is the feeling of wanting it. The chase becomes more exciting than the possession. When something is out of reach, your imagination fills in the blanks. You build a perfect image of it, the ideal partner, the dream life, the flawless success. But mystery is a mirror. It reflects your fantasies, not reality. Once you finally reach the thing you long for, it rarely feels as powerful as you imagined. The desire fades because the mystery disappears. This is why people jump from one goal to another, always seeking the next high. To escape this trap, train yourself to value what is real, not what is distant. Desire should serve you, not control you. Learn to pause before chasing. Ask yourself, do I really want this, or do I want the feeling of wanting it? When you focus on what brings long-term meaning rather than short-term excitement, you regain power over your impulses. The law of envy reveals another hidden force in human nature. Jealousy rarely shows itself directly. It hides behind smiles, jokes, or quiet comparisons. Even people who care for you can feel it, not because they dislike you, but because your success reminds them of their own fears and limits. They might downplay your wins, change the subject, or offer fake compliments that sting more than they soothe. The best response to envy is calm distance. You do not need to prove yourself or argue. Let your work speak for itself. If you sense envy in someone close to you, protect your peace by lowering emotional exposure but keeping respect. When you feel envy within yourself, treat it as information, not shame. Envy points to something you wish you had, or a part of yourself you have ignored. Instead of resenting others, study what they are doing right. Ask yourself, what lesson can I learn from their success? When you shift envy into curiosity, it becomes a source of energy rather than poison. Then comes the law of grandiosity, which warns about success that blinds. When things start to go well, it is easy to believe you are untouchable. Pride whispers that you no longer need advice, reflection, or correction. This illusion of superiority has destroyed many talented people. They stop learning, ignore warnings, and lose touch with reality. True greatness is not loud. It is calm, humble, and open to feedback. The wise stay curious even when they are winning. They know that confidence without humility turns into arrogance, and arrogance leads to downfall. Real confidence is quiet. It is not about being the loudest in the room or proving your worth to others. It is about knowing who you are, where you came from, and how much more you still have to learn. When you master your desires, your envy, and your pride, you stop being a slave to hidden emotions. You become someone who can see through illusion, someone who chooses meaning over fantasy, growth over ego, and peace over competition. That is the beginning of freedom from the hidden forces that control most people. Human beings often live in the illusion of the present moment, believing that comfort today matters more than peace tomorrow. The law of short-sightedness explains this natural weakness of the human mind. We are wired to chase immediate pleasure and avoid discomfort, even if that choice damages us in the long run. Think about how often people give up on a goal because it takes too long, or how easily they trade a meaningful challenge for an easy distraction. This law teaches that every decision you make is not just about now. It is a vote for the person you will become in 1 year, 5 years, or even 10. The future version of you is built by the small, quiet choices you make today. Before making a decision, pause and ask yourself, how will this shape me a year from now? This simple question can pull your mind out of impulse and place it back into wisdom. Growth always begins with perspective. Then comes the law of defensiveness. The human ego is fragile, always trying to protect its image of perfection. When someone offers criticism or honest feedback, most people react not with curiosity but with resistance. They feel attacked, even when the truth is meant to help. This defensiveness blocks growth. If you want to evolve, you must learn to receive uncomfortable truths without taking them personally. When you feel the sting of criticism, breathe and ask, what part of this is true? What can I learn from it? Growth begins where the ego ends. Let humility become your teacher. It does not mean weakness, it means strength through awareness. The person who can stay calm when corrected will always rise higher than the one who must always be right. The law of self-sabotage is one of the most painful patterns in human nature. Many people destroy the very things they work for: success, love, peace, not because they want to fail, but because deep down they do not believe they deserve to win. They might quit just before a breakthrough, return to a toxic relationship, or create drama when life becomes stable. The subconscious is powerful. If it believes you are unworthy, it will pull you back to match that belief. To escape self-sabotage, you must rewrite your inner story. Say to yourself, I am not my past. I am my potential. Your mistakes do not define you, your response to them does. When you act from self-respect rather than self-doubt, you begin to break the invisible cycle that has held you for years. Every small victory against fear builds a new identity, one that trusts its own worth. Finally, the law of repression reminds us that emotions buried alive never die. Anger, sadness, shame, guilt, these are not meant to be hidden. When suppressed, they disguise themselves as anxiety, irritation, or exhaustion. You might think you have moved on, but the emotion lives quietly in your body, shaping your reactions and relationships. The only way to free yourself is to face what you feel. When you feel anger, do not deny it. Name it. When you feel grief, let it move through you. Write about it, speak about it, or sit with it until it softens. This is not weakness, it is emotional hygiene. Just as you clean your body daily, you must also cleanse your mind and heart. Healing is not about forgetting the past but releasing its control over the present. When you face your pain, you turn it into wisdom. When you accept your emotions, you turn them into power. And when you live with awareness, you step outside the limits of time, no longer a prisoner of your old patterns, but the author of your own evolution. Human beings are social creatures, but society itself is built on invisible performances. The law of role-playing does not stop at individuals, it shapes entire communities. Everyone wears a mask to fit into their environment, at work, in friendships, even within families. People perform confidence when they feel insecure, display kindness when they seek approval, and show indifference when they fear rejection. To understand others, you must learn to see beyond the surface. Observe what people do when no one is watching, how they treat those who cannot offer them any benefit, and whether their words align with their actions. What you see in public is rarely the whole truth. This awareness does not make you cynical, it makes you wise. It allows you to navigate social spaces without losing your authenticity. The law of conformity reminds us that the majority follow the crowd not because they agree, but because they are afraid to stand alone. The fear of rejection is one of the deepest instincts in human nature. In ancient times, being excluded from the group meant death, and this fear still lives in our subconscious minds. That is why so many people copy trends, opinions, and beliefs without thinking. If you want to rise above the crowd, you must learn to think alone. Solitude is not loneliness, it is strength. Spend time by yourself to hear your own thoughts without the noise of others. Ask yourself what you truly believe, not what you have been taught to repeat. Independence of mind is rare because it requires courage, but once you develop it, no approval can control you. The law of fickleness explains the unpredictable nature of human loyalty. People often love you for what you give them, not for who you are. When you stop providing comfort, validation, or convenience, their affection may fade. The truth is, emotions are temporary. They change with circumstances. One day you may be celebrated, and the next, forgotten. Do not base your value on how others see you. Build stability inside yourself. When your sense of worth depends on the opinions of others, you will always be at their mercy. True confidence is calm and independent. It does not rise or fall with praise or criticism. It simply remains steady, knowing that approval is a reflection of others, not a measure of truth. The law of aggression shows how hidden anger often disguises itself behind politeness. People rarely express their true frustration directly. Instead, it leaks out through sarcasm, gossip, or subtle sabotage. This is called passive aggression, a smile that hides resentment. Recognizing it requires emotional intelligence. When someone consistently forgets, promises, or makes hurtful jokes, do not respond with hostility or defensiveness. Instead, choose clarity. Ask calmly, is something wrong between us? I'd like to understand. Direct communication exposes hidden emotions and prevents manipulation. It disarms hostility by refusing to play the same game. The person who can stay composed in the face of passive aggression holds the real power, because they operate from awareness, not reaction. True social intelligence comes from observation, not judgment. Study the motives behind behavior. Notice patterns more than words. Most people act out of emotion, fear, or desire, not logic. When you understand these hidden forces, you stop taking things personally. You begin to see that people's actions reflect their inner world, not your worth. The key to mastering social life is detachment with empathy. Care deeply about people, but not about their approval. Listen with compassion, but do not absorb their chaos. When you learn to understand human nature without letting it control your emotions, you gain quiet power, the kind that allows you to move through any crowd with peace, confidence, and clarity. Human identity is more complex than we often realize. The law of gender rigidity shows that every person carries both masculine and feminine qualities, regardless of gender. Strength and sensitivity, logic and emotion, discipline and empathy all exist within us. Yet society often pressures people to choose one side. Men are told to hide emotion, while women are told to soften their strength. This division creates imbalance. True confidence comes from integration, not suppression. A strong person who cannot feel becomes cold and disconnected, while a kind person who cannot set boundaries becomes drained and resentful. To live fully, you must embrace both sides of yourself. Be firm when needed, but remain compassionate. Speak with clarity, but listen with warmth. The most powerful individuals are those who can adapt, strong in action, gentle in understanding. The law of generational myopia reminds us that every era shapes how people think. Our desires, fears, and beliefs are influenced by the culture we live in, often without our awareness. Social media, pop culture, and public opinion constantly tell us what success, beauty, and happiness should look like. As a result, many people chase dreams that do not belong to them. You might believe you want fame, wealth, or recognition, but ask yourself, who planted that idea in your mind? Is it something your soul truly wants, or something your generation has convinced you to want? Cultural blindness is dangerous because it makes you live for the expectations of others. When you step back and question the world around you, you begin to see clearly. Strong minds live within their time but think beyond it. They are not controlled by trends or social approval. They create their own definition of meaning and success. If your choices are guided by external pressure, you will always feel restless. But when your direction comes from within, peace replaces confusion. The law of aimlessness describes a silent struggle of modern life, constant activity without purpose. Many people stay busy but not fulfilled. They move fast but have no destination. They confuse motion with progress. Without a clear why, every goal feels empty once achieved. Purpose is what transforms existence into meaning. It gives direction to your actions and courage to your struggles. To find your purpose, ask yourself one question: what would I still do even if no one clapped? The answer reveals what truly matters to you. Something that connects to your values, not to validation. Once you find that core reason, build your life around it. Purpose brings focus, and focus brings peace. You stop chasing distractions because you finally know where you are going. The laws of identity and culture remind us that we are shaped by our time, but not defined by it. When you embrace balance, awareness, and purpose, you live as the creator of your own nature, not as a product of your environment. The law of death denial is perhaps the most powerful of all human truths. People live as if they will never die, yet death is the one certainty every human shares. Because we fear it, we avoid thinking about it. We hide behind distractions, routines, and plans for someday. Someday I will travel. Someday I will forgive. Someday I will follow my dream. But someday is a fragile illusion. When you truly face the reality of death, something inside you awakens. You begin to understand that time is not endless, and every day is a small piece of your life that will never return. Remembering death does not create sadness, it creates urgency. It teaches you to live deliberately. Instead of postponing joy, you begin to appreciate small moments, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a friend, the quiet of early morning. People who remember their mortality live differently. They stop wasting time on meaningless conflict or empty comparison. They stop trying to impress people who will not matter in the end. They say, "I love you," more often and mean it. They forgive faster, not because others deserve forgiveness, but because peace is too valuable to delay. Mortality gives life its shape. Imagine a story with no ending. It would lose its meaning. Death, in its strange way, gives value to everything we do. It reminds us that each chapter matters because there will not be infinite chapters to come. Denying death is denying purpose. When you act as if time is unlimited, you drift. You let fear decide. But when you accept that your days are numbered, you stop existing and start living. Facing mortality brings clarity. It helps you see what truly matters: love, connection, growth, and contribution. It helps you let go of noise and choose depth. Many of the world's wisest minds, philosophers, artists, leaders, drew their strength from this realization. They saw that life becomes rich only when you remember it is temporary. So take a moment and ask yourself, if I knew my time was short, how would I live today? What would I stop postponing? Who would I forgive? What would I create? The answers to these questions are not about death. They are about life. The final law of human nature is not about control, but awareness. You cannot control the world, people, or fate. But you can understand yourself. And in that understanding, you gain freedom, the freedom to live intentionally, to love deeply, and to die without regret. When you stop denying death, you stop denying life. And that is the beginning of true wisdom.